Hi everyone, this is Armoured Pants here, and I have the next video for you in the Chinese 90 Tier 9 TD, which is a WZ-111G FT as opposed to the WZ-111G FT, the previous one. As I said, these tank names are confusing and hardly are inspiring, but nonetheless they're good tanks, so worth reviewing and worth looking at. So let's have a look at the tech spec, and as always you use blitzhanger.com. Now, first off, when we're looking at the provisions, the view range is not great in this tank, even if you max it out. It's only 277 meters maxed out. So the protective kit may be a better option for you. And then you'll have 273 meters, because you really need your allies to spot for you in this tank anyway. There are two gun options, a 130mm and a big monster 152mm. 152mm has lower DPM in theory, but practically in an actual it has higher DPM because you get more penetrations. The 152mm gun gives you more punch, 290mm of pen with a 15.35 second reload, or you can have a 10.24 second reload on the lower gun on 130mm. Heats your Pramo, it does 375mm of pen and 550 plus damage points. You've got 90mm pen with HE on the 152 gun though, so remember, load that up because that does almost 1000 damage points, and it will go through all light tanks and all medium tanks on the side, so you get massive alpha rolls. Has good gun dispersion too, so there's good gun handling on this. It's quite low, 0.312 on a 152mm gun. I would use supercharge to max out the muzzle velocity, because as a TD you do need to have your muzzle velocity as high as possible, because you're going to be firing over longer distances. Therefore, making those shells go as quickly as possible is important. And you'll see that even when you max out the muzzle velocity with this, it's still less than 1000 meters per second, so it's quite slow. The mobility in this tank is okay. It's 35 kilometers an hour in straight line, 60 in reverse, very similar to the tank before it. And has a decent power to weight ratio too, so it gets you into your sniping positions well, so you can accelerate quickly. And this is particularly important if you've got fast movers on your team who are going to spot. You want to get into a good position where you can support them, so this tank will get you into that position quickly because of this power to weight ratio. It's good traverse as well, so therefore if you do get isolated you can brawl if necessary, and the traverse can often take some light and medium tanks by surprise, particularly if you can hide your butt. Concealment is worse than the previous tiers, especially bad after firing, so take note of this. If you look at the concealment numbers, a light tank only has to get in with 270 meters of you to spot you after you've fired, even if you're still. So that means you're very poor concealment numbers. So a light tank gets only within 290, 285 meters of you, he will spot you up, which means he doesn't have to get close to you at all. So he's going to spot you up way before you see him, even if you max out your view range. So just be aware of that. That's why you really need your teammates to help you out with this tank to do the spotting for you. You can see the turret armor, if you can call it turret armor because it doesn't have a turret, is strong. So let's say the upper plate armor is strong and you will bounce shots in this. You can also side scrape in this tank. Look at those relative armor numbers on the side. It has monster relative armor numbers, and therefore it can side scrape. And this is a tactic that allows this tank to go frontline, especially if you're top tier. And in the game we're going to see, I actually decide to do that. I'm top tier in it, it's an Alpenstad, so I decide to go frontline to capture C. And this is something which you can do in this tank, especially when you become comfortable with it. So at the start I would play as a traditional TD, sitting back, sniping, farming damage for your team, allowing your meds and light tanks to spot. But later on, when you get more comfortable with the gun handling, with the handling of the tank itself, you can actually go to heavy channel if you want, go front line, because the frontal armor and the side scraping capabilities of this tank allow you to do that, and you'll see that in play in the game we're going to look at. You're a big target, as you saw there. Front on, if you're a top tier, you can see you have great frontal armor against your peers as well. But when you're bottom tier, the tier 10s find it easier to pen you, so therefore I wouldn't recommend going front line if you're not top tier. When moving, you can see on the sides and back you're vulnerable, so you need to be very careful. I would also run 2 repair kits so you're not tracked out in the open in this tank. Front on, your armor is good, but at the sides and back it's weak.
Sniping, particularly when you're starting with this tank, is good. Go to traditional TD spots, you will be able to farm damage. You saw there with those HE rounds at 90mm pen HE rounds, you can have massive alpha rolls. But as you become more experienced, and if you want to have a bit of variation in your play, you can go front line, especially if you're top tier. So there's two different tactics available to you. You can utilize that frontal armor to go front line. But as I said, only do that later on when you're more experienced with the tank, comfortable with its handling, gun handling, etc. Start off, this is a very good tank in the traditional TD role of sitting back, using that big gun to farm some damage for your team. So a couple of different options that you can play with the tank, and as you get more experience with it, you can be a bit more adventurous in it. So let's have a look at some gameplay. It's Alpenstad, and as promised, what we are going to do is have a look at a Supremacy Mastery game where I go front line and actually do some bounces, some side scraping in this as well. So I check the setup as always. I decide to go to C. I think that probably my team is going to need help there in capturing C rather than me sitting back. Plus Alpenstad for me is a map which it's not the friendliest for TDs. I find that the TD positions in it are okay, but you don't have as good fields of fire as you do on some other maps, and also you are more likely to be spotted from those sniping positions than you are in other maps. There isn't really a map where this position where you can sit right at the back of the map and open up decent fields of fire. So oftentimes in my Alpenstad, if I'm playing TD, especially for a good frontal armor, I go front line. As you can see here, 35 kilometers an hour. I'm not the fastest, but I'm the fastest out of my team. So I decide I'm just going to push on. There's Conqueror here. I'm pretty confident that I can bounce some shots off this Conqueror. So I line up, one bouncer hit me, and then I put a massive big round into him using this huge gun of mine. You don't often have to use your Pramo ammunition in this tank because it's just the AP rounds are so effective. See here, another bounce here off the big gun of the 101P, another bounce, wiggling and jiggling, just presenting him with very difficult armor angles. Now I'm going to side scrape here. I'm going to let them fire off at me there, so this one didn't even hit the building in front. Got the Object 704 here. This is a really big gun. I'm going to show him a bit of leg, and there we go, get a bounce off him too. Put another round then into the Conqueror, who came outside on. So you can see here, there's one shot zip by, one shot hits the masonry in the building in front of me. I'm going to pop out and show a little bit of leg to the guys, see if I can tempt them into a shot on me. All shots that I bounce are shots that could be doing damage to my allies, so it's a double whammy effect. Not only am I not getting damage, but I'm also stopping the enemy sending those shells to damage my allies. So it's a good team job when you bounce shots. It's a double whammy effect. There we go. Big bounce off the 101P again. I'm in a nice side scrape position. I'm going to get multiple targets coming up, and the Conqueror comes out front onto me. I'm in a good side scrape position. I bounce another round off him and put a massive alpha roll into his front wheel. So here we are. We've already bounced almost 2k damage, 1.7k damage bounced. So I am at net 3k damage already in this game, and we are only 90 seconds into it. Another bounce here. So now we're up to almost 2k damage blocked. I've got my gold ribbon for damage blocked already. And you can see what I was talking about. There's another bounce. You can see what I was talking about the side scraping capabilities of this tank. Tractor 704 there. Another bounce going in. So now we are up, 2.5k damage block now at this stage. So I'm going to come on now. The 704 is pushing onto me here, so I need to create a different angle for him. Nice alpha roll into him there. And you can just see I've done a really, really good job here for my team. I've used the strengths of my tank, which are my big gun, my big alpha rolls. And I have been able to use my frontal armor and my side armor to bounce a lot of shots. So now we are only 2.5 minutes into this game, and we are at over 5k, almost 5.5k of net damage in terms of bounce damage and inflicted damage. Put one into the bottom plate of the 101P, just again using normal AP rounds. Back into a side scraping position here, and he's coming on, he's trying to get onto the side of me here. He gets a shot, he pops over onto the hill, and he doesn't have the gun depression then to get a shot, all at 6s and 7s. And you see that's frustration coming through for him as well. He's had now 3 shots on me with 0 damage. The 101P has a long reload, and he's really frustrated. So therefore he comes out, he comes side on, and he just doesn't utilize the strengths of his tank, and just gets smashed in the end by me and my teammates. Important lesson here for those of you who are new to Blitz or new to playing Supremacy. Experienced players will know this: capture bases. When you're playing Supremacy, you need to capture bases. You see it so often in games. I've said this before. You're a lot of tanks up, but you're maybe 2 or 3 bases down, and you just go for the kill on the last tank or last couple of tanks. You end up losing the points, particularly if they're fast movers and you can't catch them. So, and in this instance here, we were 2 to 1 bases down. We could have gone chasing the T-54 around the map. He's very fast. We may not have catch him, and we could have lost on points. It happens so often, more often than you would think. So Supremacy is about capturing bases, so you need to capture bases. Now, save the best shot for last here. This is a beautiful tracking shot with a HE round on the fast-moving T-54, and we just slow that down and have a look at it again, because I was really happy with this shot. It's a fast-moving target. And this is what I said to you earlier on. We were doing a tech review about the HE rounds, right? So T-54, the 90mm of pen is going to go way through him. You see that tracking shot, nice deflection shot, fired just in front of where I wanted to hit. It's over a distance about 300 meters, straight through, bam. And that's the effect the HE can be on this, nice clearance there. 5.26k of damage, so almost 5.3k of damage. But more importantly, huge amount of damage blocked. So it's over a 7. I think it's a 7 or 7.5k damage, net damage game, which is pretty amazing, and it's a great contribution. And as I said, it's great team play when you block shots, because not only are you not taking damage yourself, you're stopping damage being inflicted on your teammates. So there you go, steel wall, as you might imagine from that performance in terms of side scraping and bounces. High caliber, most of the damage done, and then the mastery badge. And the mastery badge, of course, is about XP, and I think it's 1.42k of XP delivered in that game, which is significant. So let's have a recap on this. Let's use our very helpful goth girl, Frau Schwarz. So this is a decent mobile TD. Not as mobile as some, but it gets around the map. It can get into positions as you saw as we did there. It has great frontal armour. It's a larger profile, larger target than the previous tank. These tanks get bigger as they go up to tier 10, is even bigger again. So take note of this. You are a big target, particularly at the sides and the back. You present a nice big target, so be careful. You can do typical TD playstyle in this, and I would recommend doing that to start. But then, as you saw in that game, you can go front line when you're more experienced. 2 gun types, but I like the top gun because there's a lot of punch, and I love that pen on the AP and on the HE, especially as you saw the last shot in the T-54. Both guns are good, but you do 460 on the lower gun, but you do 640 plus damage points on your top gun, which is really good. But the reloads are slow on both guns actually, so it's 15.3 seconds on the top gun and 10.24 on the lower gun. So the reload is not great, so you need to make your shots count. I would use supercharged to max out that muzzle velocity you need it, and I'd use refined gun to reduce dispersion, and the dispersion figures are quite good then when you use refined gun. Has no real gun depression, only 6 degrees, which is kind of weird when you consider that these tanks were originally designed to fight in the Chinese mountains. Concealment is poor. Please take note of this. Moving tracks makes it even worse, and firing makes it even worse. So use the mini-map, because the firing of this just kills your concealment. So you need to maximize your concealment numbers by not moving your tracks, and hope that your allies will spot for you, because you need your team to help. When sniping, you need your meds and your light tanks to spot for you in this tank. It's very important for this, given its poor concealment numbers. It's an effective tank when you're in a sniping spot though, because you can do lots of damage, but do make your shot count. But you do need your team to spot for you, as always. If you need a refresher on how to play TD in a traditional sense and also in sniping, have a look at the reviews. We have them on channel. And muzzle velocity, this is not great, right? So therefore you need to know how to do deflection shooting, you need how to do tracking shots. So I did in the T54 there. So if you need a refresher on those, they're also in the sniping and TD guides that we have on channel. The music is Puccini's Chinese masterpiece Turandot, about the beautiful Chinese princess, daughter of the emperor, who is looking for a lover. And that is the amazing overture from the opening of Turandot, an opera I was lucky to see in Vienna once. So cheers, Mush. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Danke, Frau Schwartz. And I guess all remains for me to say is pants off.